In yesterday's game against the Denver Broncos, the Raiders suffered more than just a tough loss. They also lost their starting quarterback for the rest of the season. Antonio Pierce confirmed the unfortunate news. Gardner Minshew is officially out. With only 6 games left this season, the Raiders now face the challenge of moving forward without their main QB. But honestly, this might not be such a bad thing. It could be a good chance to see what the other quarterbacks on the roster can do. Let's face it, things weren't exactly clicking with Minshew anyway. Now the big questions for the rest of the season are, what can the Raiders achieve in these 6 games? And do we have a quarterback worth keeping for next year? Also, is our offensive coordinator someone we want to stick with? As for Antonio Pierce, while many think he won't be the head coach next season, I find that hard to believe. From what I've seen and heard, Pierce has been doing a solid job. Sure, fans are calling for Ben Johnson, but so is nearly every other team whose head coach is on the hot seat. With multiple teams chasing him, the chances of Johnson choosing the Raiders are slim. So it's likely the Raiders will stick with Pierce, and they'll have to figure things out as they go. On the brighter side, Pierce announced that Aidan O'Connell is back in action. It's unclear if he'll play in the upcoming game against the Chiefs, especially with the short week ahead. But I'm eager to see what O'Connell can do if he gets the chance to lead the offense. One thing that's becoming clear is how much better the offense looks under Scott Turner. Sure, we're not putting up 40 points every game, but the efficiency has noticeably improved. Against the Dolphins, we marched down the field more than we have all season. And yesterday, against a tough Broncos defense, we still managed multiple solid drives. That says a lot because the Broncos have one of the best defenses in the league. What stands out is Scott Turner's offensive design. If you watch the tape, you'll see it too. Our quick game is sharper, spacing is smarter, and the play calling is much more effective. The issue isn't the design, it's the execution. We're struggling to run the football, but that seems more about our running back talent than the play calling. Our quarterback situation is also holding us back, especially in the red zone. Instead of touchdowns, we're often settling for field goals. Still, I think Scott Turner is doing a solid job overall. And now, I'm really interested to see what Aidan O'Connell can do in this system. Nothing is guaranteed heading into next season. We don't know if we'll draft a new quarterback or overhaul the coaching staff. That's why these final games are so important. This is the perfect chance to see what Scott Turner can accomplish with different quarterbacks, including O'Connell. Antonio Pierce mentioned that O'Connell's return will depend on clearance from the doctors and medical staff. He won't push it, which is the right call. But if O'Connell gets the green light, I'm eager to see him step in and show what he's capable of in Turner's offense. If Aidan O'Connell can't play, it'll be interesting to see who gets the nod to start. Desmond Ridder is likely the top choice, but we also have Carter Bradley to consider. Bradley looked impressive during the preseason. He really stood out. Of course, preseason is different from the regular season, but I'd still be excited to see what he could bring if given a chance. Scott Turner has worked closely with these quarterbacks, especially the backups, helping them develop and adjust to the NFL. That experience could pay off if Bradley or any other quarterback is called upon. Now, I know many fans feel like we don't need to win every game at this point, and I get that. But the real goal should be showing improvement. We need to know what we have on the roster heading into next season. What if Aidan O'Connell steps up and plays well against the Chiefs? It could be a big turning point for this team. What if Aidan O'Connell comes in, throws for 500 yards and 7 touchdowns, and leads the team to an undefeated finish with huge numbers? I know that's unlikely, but what if it happens? It would be huge for the Raiders to really understand what they have in him. At the same time, what about Michael Mayer? Is he someone the Raiders should keep around for the future? If so, let's get him more involved in the offense. Let's see what he can do when given the chance to show off his skills. Another area the Raiders need to evaluate is right tackle. DJ Glazer really struggled against the Broncos, and we need to figure out if he's the right guy for the job moving forward. I'm excited to see Aidan O'Connell run the offense. Hopefully, Scott Turner can have more success with him than with other quarterbacks. It'll be interesting to see how the offense finishes out the season. Despite all the injuries and changes, including new wide receivers after Davante Adams' departure, the Raiders looked better in their game against the Broncos than they have all season. It's crazy to think about, especially given how banged up we are on both sides of the ball. But even with all that, the Raiders were still close to beating the Broncos, which shows that this team is still fighting and trying to win. Of course, the defense needs work, and that might not be fixed this season. But from what I've seen, this is a team that's still willing to play hard and keep pushing forward. You have to give credit to Antonio Pierce for getting the most out of his players. Max Crosby, for example, is giving it his all every game. He had an incredible performance against the Broncos, posting his most winning reps in a single game this season. That's impressive, and it deserves recognition. But it's not just Crosby. Robert Spillane is out there making plays, and even Jack Jones, despite a few mistakes, is contributing as well. Antonio Pierce has these players putting everything on the line, even in games that feel like they don't matter as much. These guys are showing up and giving it their best, which speaks to Pierce's leadership. One player I want to highlight as we wrap this up is Tyree Wilson. He's a guy that many people, myself included, have written off. To be honest, he hasn't looked great up until now. Last year he struggled, and he didn't show much in the preseason either. But lately, we're starting to see a change. Tyree Wilson is beginning to make more plays. He's getting after the quarterback more, and he's been especially strong against the run. In fact, I'd argue he's one of the best run defenders in the NFL right now. He might even be the best defensive lineman we have when it comes to stopping the run. Wilson is becoming a real problem for opposing offenses in that area. I know things aren't perfect, but it's exciting to see Tyree Wilson starting to show some flashes. As we look ahead to next year, these are the kinds of things the Raiders need to figure out. For example, when Malcolm Koonce returns, we need to know where he's at health-wise and how he fits into the rotation with Wilson. Speaking of Wilson, I think he had his best game yet against the Broncos. He did get a sack, but it came from a designed stunt, so it's not all on him. However, what really stood out was his play against the run. He made some big stops, including one where he read a Broncos end around perfectly. They tried to run around him, but he saw it coming and blew the play up. Wilson is starting to reset the line of scrimmage, getting into the backfield and disrupting plays. He's not making every play, but he's making it hard for offenses to do their thing, and that's exactly what we need from him. I think he's starting to get the recognition he deserves. No, he might not be a superstar like Jalen Carter, who's already one of the top players at his position, but Wilson is definitely looking better now than before. I'm not saying he's going to be an elite player overnight, but it's clear he's improving, and that's a good sign. If he keeps this up, he could become a force for the Raiders next year. Big guys like Wilson, who are power-based in college, often take longer to develop in the NFL. Everyone's strong in the pros, but if a guy like Wilson can put it all together, both physically and mentally, he'll find success. He's showing the potential to do that, and even though he only played 30 snaps yesterday, he still had 7 or 8 really solid plays. I'm excited to see where he goes from here. I'm excited to see what Tyree Wilson can do moving forward. We'll get a better idea as we continue through the season. The Raiders have a tough game against the Kansas City Chiefs on Friday, and that should be really interesting to watch. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to give a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time with another video.